views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium. Good afternoon. You are tuned in to Black Talk Radio News. My name is Scotty Reed. I'm broadcasting from behind these enemy lines that we call USA Inc. Today's date is September the 26th, 2017 on this Tuesday afternoon. Now, we will only be on air for an hour today. Let me just put that out there. Right now, there are some things that I need to take care of in terms of the platform. We're having some issues and I'm the only one that can solve them, so I will only be on air for an hour today. Just really been sorry about the technical issues that we've been having lately, but that's how technology is. It can be very, very fickle. As just now, we were disconnected from our conference line. Now, we do have a guest schedule today, and our guest will be Mr. Walter Beach.
You are joining Black Talk Radio.
And as we get reconnected, please bear with us.
If you would like to make a comment during live programming or you are an invited guest, hit the star key twice on your dial pad. Wait for the host to acknowledge you, and always remember to watch your background noise.
You are the first participant on the call. Please hold while we wait for the others to join. This call is being recorded.
All right, now that we got that out the way and all set, let's start over. Welcome to BTR News. My name is Scotty Reed. I'm broadcasting from behind the enemy lines of USA Inc. And today we do have a guest who is coming to us via the National Black Leadership Alliance. We'll be speaking with activist Walter Beach. He was part of he was in a famous photograph where you had a bunch of black athletes in the 1960s who were standing in solidarity with Muhammad Ali, who was resisting the Vietnam draft. So we'll be talking to him about culture as a weapon and get his thoughts on current NFL and NBA player protests against police brutality, racism, and injustice in the United States. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with some music, and we'll be back on the other side. This is Point of No Return. And welcome back to BTR News. Going to go over some of the headlines of the day. There is always a lot going on, a lot to report that people should be aware of. First thing this morning, I logged on to Twitter, and I tell you, the right wing is really having a huge problem with these protests, and especially after last night when you had Jerry Jones, who is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, who went out on the field and took a knee in solidarity with all his players. And so I logged on to Twitter today, and I follow certain right-wing figures just to see what they're saying, what they're up to as part of my intelligence gathering. And I tell you, David Clark needs some help. That man really needs some psychiatric help. If I was his wife or in his, I'd be trying to have that man committed, because that man is he's just sick. He's very sick. And it's like he hates black people, even though he's black himself. And so the thing that caught my eye this morning, one of the things he put out there on Twitter, which was retweeted by thousands of people, saying that NFL players taking a knee is not free speech. Oh, really? But I bet you if we ask him, what does he think about white supremacist Klan rallies? Oh, that's covered by the First Amendment, isn't it? That's what he would say. I would take a different view on that issue, as they are terrorists. These NFL players are protesting against elements of terrorism connected to slavery and white supremacy. So, but a lot of them, the usual characters among the right wing, are just really freaking out. They're freaking out that some of these owners have, I guess you could say, had the back of some of their players who wanted to participate by taking a knee. I mean, they're really freaking out over this, and I'm loving it, really. So it just tells you something about the power of demonstrations and the power of protests. I know there's a lot of people who don't see the value in that, but if it didn't have value, then these people wouldn't be freaking out the way they're freaking out. And you might as well say Colin Kaepernick's mission has been accomplished, and because his mission was simply to start a conversation or to elevate the conversation surrounding police murders, extrajudicial killings, and then these people getting away with murder. I think one of the things he said, they're killing people and then getting paid vacation and what have you. So Colin Kaepernick mission has been completed, as his form of protest and the issues that he was attempting to raise is on full display right now, and that's a good thing. So shout out to Colin Kaepernick. All right, so some of the other news that's in the headlines today: the Obamacare repeal appears dead again. This is the second time that the Republicans and Donald Trump have tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act, and it's just not happening for them. It's just not happening for them. And so they're kind of angry about that, particularly Donald Trump, who was blasting on John McCain for not supporting that new bill, or the new Obamacare repeal. It looks like it's not going to pass. Equifax, we have reported on the Equifax hack or whatever happened. I don't know, but they're saying that it was a hack. So you now have Equifax CEO Richard Smith is stepping down because of the hacking scandal that made vulnerable a lot of people's personal information, millions of people's personal information. Also in the headlines, North Korea, as we know, Donald Trump has been using Twitter to lob death threats to the leadership of North Korea and talking about destroying the entire country. Now they are showcasing the parents of Otto Warmbier, the person who went over there and committed an act of theft. This white person who was then convicted of trying to steal one of the posters from the hotels that he was a guest in. He ended up getting convicted. He fell ill while in prison, went into a coma, and then later died after he was released and brought back to the United States. And so they're lashing out, saying North Korea is not a victim and calling them terrorists. Of course, they're not going to acknowledge the terrorism that the United States engages in and has always engaged in throughout the world. Let's see. This stuff about emails. Now, there are some stories coming out that's saying that some of the Trump administration, including his daughter and her husband, Jared Kushner, I believe is his name, but saying that they were using private email. And this is being brought up in Congress as the person who was investigating Hillary Clinton's unapproved use of a private email with a private server, which did get hacked, which put at risk top secret information. And I haven't really had a lot of time to look into this, but some of the articles are saying it's not the same thing. But what's catching my eye is the hypocrites who said that, it was absolutely permitted for Hillary Clinton to use a private email server to conduct official state business while she was Secretary of State. And that was the whole thing with what's his name, they just got fired from the FBI, James Comey, was saying that she did have all of these classified emails on her server, but there was no intent to break the law. And that's a complete nonsense. But I'm tripping on the hypocrisy of those who defended Hillary Clinton's use of that server, but now want to take shots at members of the Trump administration for using private email. I just find that to be very, very hypocritical. Okay, let me see. What else do we got? There is no sufficient progress in the Brexit talks. Remember, the UK had a vote and they wanted to leave the European Union, and it was called the Brexit vote. And there seems to be no sufficient progress in the UK concerning talks about them leaving Brexit. So that's still being held up. Georgetown law students and faculty are planning a protest of a speech which is to be given by U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Now, they're saying that they are not protesting because he was invited to the Georgetown University to give a speech about free speech. They say they are fine with this free speech, but they are protesting their hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of the Trump administration on free speech issues, as again Donald Trump has been violating U.S. law by telling people that or telling CEOs of these NFL teams that they should fire these people and for exercising their First Amendment speech rights. Obviously, Donald Trump doesn't believe in the First Amendment or the Constitution, or he wouldn't be saying such things. Now, all the while, remember, a hurricane just devastated the occupied territory of Puerto Rico, which the United States has been occupying since it was given to them by another European world power, that would be Spain. And so while that's going on and they are without power, the island is almost totally flooded. And this guy, Donald Trump, is on Twitter talking about NFL players and threatening NFL players and just, threatening all these people. And he's saying nothing about the victims of that hurricane in Puerto Rico. And so he's being called out for that. I think Mark Anthony told him to shut the F up and to help the people in Puerto Rico and leave the NFL alone. But again, he's a man-child or a child man, and he's just so immature. I don't expect him to ever be serious or to take that job serious. Now, there's an article that's coming out about Facebook, and by the way, my Facebook ban is still in effect. Not that I really care that much about it, but that's why you may not be seeing as many articles come across some of our pages, is because I'm unable to connect the certain apps to Facebook to publish our news stories and podcasts and upcoming programs to Facebook. But I saw this article yesterday, and I did not get a chance to mention it, but there are articles saying that the Russians use Facebook ads to exploit America's racial and religious divisions. Now, some of the things they're saying is that some group tied to Russian military was spent about $100,000 on Facebook ads promoting Black Lives Matter, also promoting Muslim women for Hillary Clinton and other such ads. Now, I haven't given a whole lot of time to this, and I'm just mentioning it because I'm sure that you will see it. But this is absolute garbage. This is absolute garbage. All right. So I'm not hearing about them doing anything illegal if we take this story at face value. They can purchase ads and promote Black Lives Matter if they want to. They can promote Muslim women for Hillary Clinton. How is that exploiting America's racial and religious divisions? I mean, these are basically ads that we were seeing coming from the left and the right anyway. So saying that these were intended to divide Americans before the election, as if Americans weren't already divided. And where is the story about the Hillary Clinton camp getting executives at CNN to give Donald Trump all that 24/7 wall-to-wall coverage during his campaign, elevating him above the other Republican nominees? Yes, this was in their emails that they don't like to talk about that got exposed. All right, so where is the concern about CNN trying to influence the election by giving more coverage to one candidate over another? I mean, on CNN there was like wall-to-wall coverage. Okay, did Bernie Sanders get that much coverage? Heck, no, he did not. Did any of the other Republican nominees like John Kasich, every time they gave a speech or had a rally, was CNN cameras there to broadcast it 24/7? No. So, you know, for them to be pointing out that possibly Russian operatives, wow, Russian operatives sound so shadowy, purchase $100,000 worth of ads that we have been seeing, type of ads we've been seeing all day, every day on social media, that was exploiting America's racial and religious divisions. Again, I don't think that they are doing it. If that was the intent, well, Donald Trump got them beat. All right, because he has certainly exploited the divisions that were already there and have been long-standing. I don't know why these people want to act like America is this united country and everybody's on the same page and we're practicing true liberty and true freedom, and that's just not happening. That's not happening. So that's just crazy to me. Now, again, let me check my board. If you have any questions or comments, you can give us a call at 866-510-9025. That's 866-510-9025. Hit star to put yourself in the queue. You'll hear the instructions once you call in. Just follow those instructions. Now, we were supposed to be joined about 6 minutes ago by Mr. Walter Beach, who was at the 1967 Cleveland Summit, which was a black business summit with black athletes who were participating. And you can see him, he's in the back row in the photograph of, you got Jim Brown, Lou Alcindor, who is now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You got Bill Russell, you got Muhammad Ali, and others like Carl Stokes, who are in this photograph, who are standing in solidarity with Muhammad Ali's draft resistance and what have you. And so definitely was looking forward to speaking to him. I'm gonna see if we can find out what happened last time. We had a interview scheduled with somebody from NBLA, that's the National Black Leadership Alliance. something happened and they weren't able to call in. So I'll hit up my contact and see if we can get him on the phone. Definitely want to hear about the Culture as a Weapon initiative, which has been launched by Clear the Airways Project, as well as the Black Leadership, National Black Leadership Alliance. And please check out their YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and in the search engine put in National Black Leadership Alliance, and you'll see some of the promos that they have posted there, where it is addressing this murder music and this white supremacy that is in the music that's targeting black people, whether we're talking about gangster rap or what they call trap rap today and what have you. And I do see that it's white supremacist music, because if it's anti-black, if it's promoting anti-blackness, then it is also simultaneously promoting white supremacy. And so definitely it is a worthy cause to try to address this media, this dangerous media that is being pumped into the black community via mostly white-owned radio stations like iHeartRadio. So we will see what's the hold up and see if we can get him on the line. But again, I can only be on air for an hour. I have a number of things that are pressing issues that I need to address. Otherwise, I would stay on the entire 2 hours. So I'm going to take a music break, and then when we come back, hopefully we'll have him on the line. If not, the program must go on, so we'll continue the program.
This is death. This is death, a spiritual death, because once someone violates you like that, I don't care who you are, you will never be the same. Talking about a sister where he's saying, I'm going to slip this drug to her and she don't even know what happened. You will never be the same. So any way that we can, this is the time to get out there and educate our people, because we know the influence that hip-hop had. And like our wonderful brother Paradise Great from X-Clan said, the very tool that's been used to raise our consciousness and awareness, which is hip-hop, now is the main tool being used to destroy us. So we have to reverse it back to its original purpose and form. Drugs, gangs, violence, disrespecting our sisters, those were the same things that was being used to reverse those ills in our society. So it's not the time to be quiet.
What life should be like. If God wanted me to be this person and be happy here, he wouldn't let me feel so oppressed. He wouldn't let me feel so trampled on. I want when they see me, they know that every day when I'm breathing, it's for us to go farther.
I took a shot of reality, chased it with sorrow, smoking the old days, laced with no tomorrow. Got a childhood I can borrow, mine is missing. An infant tried as an adult, sentenced to mental prison. I wanted to run away, but I got caught and tackled. They wouldn't put their guns away till all my thoughts were shackled. Brought me in a stack of lines, made me memorize it, leaving me hypnotized without me even realizing. Spelled my name numerically and increased my medication till I was addicted to the adrenaline rush involved with altercation. The heartless kept it dark across the nation, sparking operations based on guns and confrontation. Less education led to separation. For being deaf, dumb, and blind left plenty of time for meditation. Self-evaluation led to recreation. All the thoughts about the time wasted finally led to pacing. The isolation acted like an incubation. I saw a spark in the dark and went towards it with no hesitation. The salutations was peace and blessings. Told me I would need protection and proceeded teaching lessons. Showed me how to read people. Told me the only reason to play the fool is to deceive the evils. Cause see, we've been trained to hate ourselves and degrade ourselves. Hell, we even sedate ourselves. So we gotta get it straight ourselves. Gotta date with fate to emancipate ourselves.
Anytime you beg another man to set you free, you'll never be free. Freedom is something that you have to do for yourself.
I took a double shot straight to the brain and tasted the pain of a generation wasting in vain, chasing the fame. Then the cases came, replacing the change. Only small traces remain of the places they came. So much hate in the game, they ain't gotta change the rules. Housekeepers look involved, but they still the same fools. Feeling getting switched up, started yelling thugs without knowing the truth. Now reduced to selling drugs, telling us our instincts are failing us. Too many of the devil's ways still dwell in us, like it's a spell on us, and we can't let it go. Heredity embedded deep in our genetic code, like we was only fed to grow. Talk to never know, never keep, just blow. Never reap, just sow. Given the toughest road to hope and the hardest flow to master. And directions to disaster. We don't get it right.
We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary.
You are tuned in to the Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
And welcome back to Black Talk Radio News. We do have someone working on trying to get in touch with Mr. Walter Beach, who is scheduled to speak with us today about the National Black Leadership Alliance initiative to use culture as a weapon, because it's certainly this made up culture of gangster rap is certainly being used against us. Okay, I wouldn't even consider that to be culture, because culture is something that is of high intelligence. It doesn't take an intelligent person to say the N-word all day and talk about killing people and selling drugs and date raping women and things of that nature. And again, this is white supremacy. This is white supremacy because we know who controls the music. 90% plus, well, actually 95% of what we see, read, what we hear, all of that is controlled by 6 corporations. And guess what? They ain't black owned. So I call this type of anti-black music, which is promoted by these white music companies, and I call it white supremacy music. It is anti-black, so therefore it's white supremacy. All right, so definitely looking forward. Hopefully we'll be able to speak to him again. We're only on for an hour today, got a lot going on. But the article was shared with me by Brother Kwabena from the undefeated.com. It is a interview that Mr. Beach gave earlier, and it's written, it's not in audio, but an interview he gave over the summer to the Undefeated. I'm trying to load it up right now. And it says the title is Walter Beach, who was at the 67 Cleveland Summit, says he was never contaminated by white supremacy. Now, as I was also reading this, I found out that he actually got cut from the Boston Patriots. That would be the forerunner to the New England Patriots, I presume. But he was even cut by them after 3 seasons with them because he and black players organized a protest against segregated housing, I believe is what it. Let me pull that up, see if I can find that part of it. But definitely what we're seeing now with these professional athletes is it's been done before. This isn't the first time we've seen this. So it says in an article that Beach played cornerback for the Boston Patriots from 1960 to 1963 and then spent the next 3 seasons with the Cleveland Browns before retiring in 1966. Beach was cut by the Patriots in 1963 and labeled a, quote, troublemaker for organizing a protest among the black players against the segregated living conditions during the team's road trip to New Orleans. I didn't grow up in a community where we thought white people were more intelligent or better or brighter or beautiful, more so than black people, said Beach. So I was never contaminated with that virus, and that's the operative term, contamination. Wow. That's pretty deep, you know, considering that there are black people who do believe in the supremacy of white people, and they call it countering racism, but these people actually believe in the supremacy of white people because they are, quote unquote, on top of the food chain and what have you. But I just cannot buy into that ideology. I cannot buy into that. to that rhetoric, because, you know, some people won't understand if you're just trying to say that, hey, we're just mean that they're supreme in terms of who's running the system. But you know what? There's a lot of black people that y'all don't want to acknowledge that are also part of this system and making some of these decisions that's leading to human rights violations and what have you. So that's a pretty deep statement. He's saying that he was not infected by that virus, so he see white supremacy as a virus. Now, I do agree with some that white supremacy is a religion as well, because it's based on a set of beliefs. Okay, it's not something they can prove. It's not anything of the sorts. It's a set of beliefs. And I mean, if you see some of these degenerate looking white supremacists like we saw in Charlottesville, ain't nothing supreme about them. Ain't nothing supreme about them. The only supreme thing that is supreme is their white privilege in relation to non-white people in this country. And so, you know, it's definitely been time to put these white supremacists down. All right, let me check the board once again, see if we have Mr. Beach. Okay, no, we don't have him. We hope that he is okay. We do have people trying to reach him right now and give us a call. I'm not sure what this is in the chat room. Otis, if you would like to unmute yourself and share this story, because I'm not sure about what's going on here. Let's see, it says the link is 100 prison beds have been delivered to the front door of LA County Board of Supervisors to protest the $3.5 billion investment into 2 new jails. Traffic has been shut down. Action is live. Okay. Hey, Otis, thanks for sharing that story. Can you give us some more insight of what's going on?
I didn't go deep into it because I was trying to listen to it. Layla Aziz, who's been on your show before as an organizer out of California.
Yes.
She put it up saying that it's apparently they're blocking the entrance to the LA Police Department. These people, this movement is not going to die. I just thought I'd throw it in there so if you had a chance to look at it, you might want to add it in. Okay. Or we cover it Wednesday when you go.
Yeah, we'll probably, because see, I'm only on air for an hour today, Otis, so definitely pin that so that we can discuss it more in depth on Wednesday night on New Abolitionist Radio. Hey, I support that.
Okay, and I know you're short on time, so we'll do it, man.
Okay, all right. Yeah, see, we're having some issues right now with the platform, and so yeah, I got some stuff I got to get a handle on. So definitely, if we're not able to speak to Mr. Beach today for whatever reasons, we'll definitely reschedule him for later this week, possibly. We're just hoping that he's in good health, as we are talking about an elder in the community who again has been protesting racism in this country as a young man and professional athlete. So I mean that really, you know, would be great to speak to him and get his thoughts on the current protests. Well, one of the things Mr. Beach did say in this article, again, this article is on the undefeated.com, and I have linked it up for today's program in BTR community. But let me see. Let me scroll down. Now, I mentioned that he organized some protests when he was with the Boston Patriots, which is now the New England Patriots. And Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, in this current period right now, has said that Donald Trump is being divisive and that he went too far, and that he supports, you know, players' right to protest. They have constitutional rights. And then also Tom Brady, who has been described as a friend of Donald Trump, has also said that Donald Trump is wrong on this. But, you know, it's not about being wrong or right in people's minds like Donald Trump. It's about being white. Okay, it's not about being wrong or right. It's about being white, as in white supremacy. All right. So, but Mr. Beach did say that it's time for It's time for these athletes to reaffirm their dignity and their worth, and that they should be engaging in the wider struggle. All right. So definitely that's a message that seems to have been heeded by, if you look at what happened over the weekend with widespread protests in the NFL. So yeah, he says that, let me see. Shortly after Beach joined the Browns, he forged a friendship with running back Jim Brown that has lasted more than half a century. The Pontiac, Michigan native went on to help lead the Cleveland team to a world championship in 1964 thanks to Brown's willingness to stick up for his friend. When Beach received a call to support Ali, there was no question that he would return the favor. So again, what has happened to Jim Brown? Has Jim Brown, as Mr. Beach said, been infected by the white supremacist virus? As Mr. Beach said, he was never infected by it, because, you know, Jim Brown is no longer the Jim Brown of the 1960s when he was standing up for black athletes who were protesting against injustice, segregation, racism, white supremacy. He stood up for Walter Beach. So what changed with Jim Brown? What changed with Jim Brown? That would be a question I would love to ask Jim Brown if I had an opportunity. Again, as I talked about yesterday, another former NFL player who was a critic of Colin Kaepernick taking a knee was Ray Lewis. But yesterday, Ray Lewis took 2 knees in solidarity with other Ravens players, although he's not a current player. He's retired now. So, you know, definitely we need this. We need this awareness to be raised. We need to be having these conversations. We need to be strategizing, and we need to come up with solutions. Now, one of the things, listen, check this out. So I was checking some YouTube videos yesterday or last night, and I came across The Breakfast Club, a video by The Breakfast Club. And the dude's name, I think, is Charlemagne the God or something like that. Again, he was on there talking about the protests, right? And he was saying, yeah, that's good. I'm with them. And yeah, what we need is black everything and black business and this and that. And I'm just going to keep saying, you're not going to black business your way out of slavery. You're not going to black business your way out from under the oppression of white supremacy. The history of the United States has shown that the one that people like to always hold up as an example is so-called Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? Which was really fueled by a couple of black people in that community who own oil, and how it was burnt down to the ground. Is black economics important? Yes, it is, but by itself, it's not a solution. And history has shown that you can be rich, you could be a millionaire like these athletes, and you can still get mistreated. You can get caught up in the system, and you can get put into slavery even today. We got a caller from area code 347. Thank you for calling in to BTR News. Who do we have on the line? Area code 347. Did you have a question?
Hey, Scott, you saw this Thomas in New York. I'm sorry, man. It took me a second to find mute. I just wanted to say, man, I'm looking at these protesters being totally fraudulent. I'm not buying it. I think it's all been fixed. Everything from the initial tweet to his speech, everything to change the conversation of the protest from being about white supremacy to now being just an anti-Trump protest, which everyone's cool with. I don't buy it. They changed the narrative of the story. And now the narrative is no longer about police brutality. It's no longer about injustice and inequality. Now it's about just being against Trump. And the system has seemed like they have no problem with people protesting Trump. So it's just made it something that the owners could latch on to, and this is acceptable for them. It's not, you're not protesting nothing but Trump. And I'll mute my line. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, and thank you for your view. I happen to disagree with it. I think that nobody is in control of these people, of these protesters, of these athletes. The only reason Trump's name is being brought up is because Trump is interjecting himself into it and calling for these NFL players to be fired and calling their mothers sons of bitches and calling their mothers bitches and just being Donald Trump a white supremacist. So, I mean, Donald Trump is the CEO of USA Inc. If he is not representative of white supremacy, I don't know what is. We could have no better representation of white supremacy than Donald Trump. So to me, hey, if you protesting Donald Trump, it's the same thing as protesting white supremacy, because this is a man who had to be forced to sign a resolution condemning white supremacy, even though that resolution means nothing. It's just a piece of paper without any action behind it. And also was told by Congress when he signed that resolution into law to provide resources to attack white supremacist terrorists, these Ku Klux Klans. They named it domestic terrorism. So I see Donald Trump and white supremacy as being synonymous. Okay. In terms of the protests, again, I know that there's people who don't see value in protesting and what have you, but I absolutely see the value in it, as it does raise the awareness about these issues. Now, who's changing the conversations? Who's allowing these other people to change the conversation? Because absolutely, some of the athletes I've been talking to, or excuse me, not talking to, but reading about, are still calling out police brutality, still calling out injustice. I wish one of them would mention slavery, because everybody misses the fact that slavery was never abolished. White supremacy is a symptom of slavery, or it is a growth of slavery. We can look into history and look at the colonial codes. The slave codes was the first time that race was introduced into legislation. So to me, I'm cool with them focusing on white supremacy. I'm cool with them focusing on Donald Trump, because it all needs to be focused on. We can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. We don't have to be narrow-minded or have narrow vision and, oh, you got to focus on this and you got to focus on that, or only one issue at a time. There are a myriad of issues that people need to address. So I'm happy that they're being addressed. Otis, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I'd like to. You've been away. I didn't know you were away from social media. The young man that called in, I think, is trying to let you know, specifically on Facebook and Twitter, the message that Colin Kaepernick put out almost a year ago now, something like September the 16th, or so it's over a year ago, was that he couldn't remain, I'm paraphrasing, he couldn't remain quiet over the deaths of black bodies in the street and the murderers getting paid vacation and not being prosecuted. So what this young man is saying to you, when Trump made that, what I call the dozens, and it's been a nonstop battle for the last 3 days on social media about this, from Breaking Brown to several other supposedly black platforms. Trump has changed this over to a free speech, don't disrespect the flag. And we've been on there constantly battling that claim. Kaepernick did not come on to complain and take a knee over free speech. And what's happening is the NFL and LeBron James are actually changing this to a right of free speech complaint. So we've been on there, I'll send you some information, battling this conversation. We're not taking a knee for free speech.
Yeah, that's correct.
We're taking a knee for the deaths in the streets, which Kaepernick is doing. And here's what I'm going to add to it, and I'll let you speak. We've even been attacking Barbara Lee, the Congresswoman
Jackson
Lee, and several others for taking a knee on the Senate floor, on the House of Representatives floor, because they are too saying the same thing. This is about Trump being a racist. No, it's not. It's about a racist system that no one stood up for the deaths of black males, bodies in the street and their homes being killed by state-sanctioned slave catchers, and no one being held accountable. That is what Kaepernick stood for, and he's gone a whole year. So the problem that we're having, is that man tried to say, is these people didn't speak up for Kaepernick. They left him out to dry. But the minute a racist bigot said what all of them have been saying in private, the same NFL owners that have given millions to Trump, once he broke code and talked about SOBs out in public, now they want to make this a freedom of speech. No, it's not about a freedom of speech.
Well, I see it, Otis. I got to run, man. I'm sorry to cut you off, but okay. I think we do have our guest on the line. But I'll say this, though. Good. I don't see anything wrong with people pointing out that it is a free speech issue. It's a free speech issue in that I can protest against racism and white supremacy. So it is a free speech issue. Okay, it's about a myriad of things. And so Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job right now because his free speech rights are being violated. All right. And so anybody telling you not to stand up, not to protest, not to demonstrate, they're basically telling you not to fight against anything. And that you don't have these rights. And you do have these human rights, not just constitutional rights. You have human rights. So I do see the correlating issue of free speech, because their free speech is being suppressed, or Kaepernick and others are being punished for using free speech to raise these issues about extrajudicial killings by slave catchers. Let's see if we have our guest on the line. I'm hearing that he's not able to get in. Is this Mr. Beach on this line, 917?
Yes. Yes, this is Walter Beach.
All right. I'm sorry about the issues that you had getting in. I saw you call in a number of times, but I wasn't aware of your number. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Yeah, well, I'd like to apologize for it, because I really thought it was on the 29th. But I'm here, and whatever few minutes we got, we can continue the discussion.
Yeah, we have about 10 minutes. But first, Mr. Beach, I want to thank you for your service to the struggle against racism and white supremacy. I absolutely know, I was born in 1966. I absolutely know that my life has been better than those who preceded me, better than my mother's, better than my grandparents, in terms of being able to be treated as a human being. And that would not have happened if people hadn't stood up and fought for me. And I know the fight is long from being over, but I still want to take this opportunity because I see me as having the opportunities that I've had because of people like yourself. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, well, it's a collective struggle. That's part of the problem. The whole issue about racism and white supremacy is to isolate us in situations and think it's just my problem or your problem. It's the collective problem about black folks. So we've always, from slavery, Reconstruction, black codes, Jim Crow, segregation, it's always been about system maintenance for that European octave. I call it an octave because it's a note, and I'm a metaphysician, so I deal with the spiritual aspect of it. So we've always been confronted with that. So whatever it looked like when they start talking about improvement, all they're talking about is system maintenance. What they're talking about is, so we say, well, is it better in 1927 than it is in 1964? It's just as dark today for me as it was in 1964. As for the rest of black folks, there's going to always be individuals that's going to survive and get through. So there was always people during slavery that ate better and lived better than other individuals. So that's the reality.
Yes.
And the whole aspect of
yes, but
racism is a phenomenon.
But because of that period of struggle, I can use the public infrastructure that my tax dollars pay for. Whereas before, black people weren't able to use the public infrastructure that their tax dollars were paying for. So when I say in terms of my life is better and I'm not suffering some of the indignities that some of my ancestors have suffered, that's what I mean. But I would also like to point out, Mr. Beach, that slavery was never abolished in this country. And what people are calling mass...
I'm aware of that. I'm definitely, in fact, it's manumission.
Yeah,
freedom would have been manumission, not emancipation.
Yeah, not the 13th Amendment.
Transfer of property.
Right, not the 13th
All they did
Amendment.
Was transfer of property. 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment are all psychological, real abstract. Because if there are amendments to the Constitution, they can be amended again.
Right. Right.
Not only can 3/4 of the Congress and Senate repeal. They want to repeal health care. They can repeal the 13th, 14th Amendment also.
Yeah, but the 13th Amendment, Mr. Beach, the 13th Amendment never abolished slavery. It says that it shall be abolished except as punishment for crime. And that's why the United States has the world's largest prison population. It's not mass incarceration. It's a continuation of slavery.
Real. That's real.
Now, sir, we were...
I wish we'd had longer to talk, so I didn't know how far or what you wanted to do, but it's mine. I apologize because on the information I had, I thought it was the 29th.
That's okay, sir.
And I was told that it's yes.
We would love to have you back. Unfortunately, I can't do the whole 2 hours today because we're having some issues with our platform, and I'm the only one who can address those issues, so I'm only doing an hour today. But we brought you were scheduled to speak about some of the work that the National Black Leadership Alliance is engaged in, which is the initiative to use culture as a weapon. What can you tell us about that?
Well, basically, culture is the essence of what it is. I say I'm black in attitude, I'm black in belief and thought, and I'm black in behavior, and I'm African in spirit. So therefore, it's about the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So black, when they talk about black is a color, black is culture, and black is consciousness. Mm-hmm. So some individuals may have the color, but not the culture and the consciousness. So what we have to do and what we're doing is we're addressing the whole aspect of the disrespect of our black women by using those terrible terms like hoes and bitches. And the president already then told you what he thinks of the black athletes. Son of a bitch. I don't accept the word. I don't want nobody calling me a son of a bitch or a nigger. I don't deal with that with the euphemism. The N-word. The N-word for me is now, never, next. So when you say the N-word, you mean what? You mean nigger. So you might as well say nigger. But that's that slick sophistication of how they manipulate their culture.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, well, we can really be nice to black folks because we won't call them niggers. We'll just say the N-word. But Trump was one breath away from saying nigger. When he says you're a son of a bitch. Mm-hmm. Everybody take their time and look up what a bitch is. And if you know what a bitch is, if they calling our young men sons of bitches, they calling my mother a bitch.
A female dog.
That's what the president of this country is. And don't misunderstand the nature of the iceberg. Trump is part of the iceberg. The Titanic was sunk by an iceberg. But the majority of the ice is where? Underwater.
Under
the 38% they say Trump represent more than 38% of this country. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been president.
Mm-hmm.
He represents what white supremacy and racism is about. And if there's any progress, it's progress predicated upon system maintenance. They want to maintain this particular system. So if they give you a job, as long as your job is playing football and you can eat well and all of the other people can suffer, and you pleased with that. And my position is, and I said it once before, if you're not going to step in the front of racism and white supremacy, you got a moral obligation to do so. Because if you don't, you're going to lose not only your life, you're going to lose your soul.
No, here as I'm sure you're aware of the widespread protests by NFL players over the weekend. I'm just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have to say I was surprised that some of the owners, even though these are just words and you know, this might be what they're doing in public, but privately, as you just pointed out, below the surface engaged in other things. But I was surprised that Jerry Jones took a knee, you know, in solidarity with the players. But I live here in North Carolina, and you got Jerry Richardson, who is the owner of the Carolina Panthers, and it came out yesterday that he told his players that to just stick to football, that, you know, we don't want to bring politics into this. But as I would say, sir, when the NFL started having these military rituals which are represented in the national anthem and you know, the display of the flag, that you brought politics into it then. So politics is already in it with your pregame, as you try to use that pregame as a military recruitment tool to get young people to join your military and go off and kill oppressed people.
Well, sir, one of the things that I say that I try to, you know, that I personally try to stay away from, I don't try to have an intellectual argument about a concrete situation. So I don't want to intellectualize around it or talk about it in hypothetical terms. Everybody knows the game is fixed. Everybody knows. So they get involved into the intellectual discussions about really what's going on. The real aspect of it is just keep it real. White folks and racism is imperialism, colonialism, capitalism, racism is deeply embedded in those systems. So as long as you're dealing with imperialism, colonialism, and capitalism, you'll be confronted with the racist aspect of it. Now, if you're talking about Jerry Jones wants money, man.
Yes.
He knows that he can't fire 10 or 15 black athletes and make some money.
Right.
So he will join their arms and kneel to make some money. That's the capitalist model. So as long as you understand that holy trinity and you are able to think and you intellectually can analyze it, colonialism, imperialism, and capitalism. Now, they got some other isms that deal with that, but my primary interest is about what happens to black people. And I don't meet people at the crossroads of all of those other things, because those other things have very little impact or less impact on me than being black on this planet. So now that's and I only speak in the first person. I only speak for myself.
Yes, sir.
So I can analyze it, and I put zero grade reliance on what the dominant culture tells me about black people. I don't rely on any of that mess. And I like the point you made about capitalism, about making money. You can make all the money you want. Because making money and racism run on parallel tracks. The one don't. So I don't care how much. You know, it's obvious how much money you get. Oprah knows that.
Right.
Michael knows that. All the guys, LeBron James knows that. So if you worship their money, all you do is submit for the maintenance of their system. Now, it's nothing wrong with making money, of course, and you should live well. And living well would be your greatest revenge. But at the same time, you have to look at the rest of not only black people, but the rest of humanity, man. The rest of humanity suffers based on that, what I call the unholy trinity.
Yes, sir.
Imperialism, colonialism, and capitalism, and they get slick. Now I'll tell you how they get slick. They'll say neo-colonialism, like it's new, or they'll say neo-imperialism. No, ain't nothing neo about it, but that's the language.
Right.
That's why I'm saying they're the masters, and they're the masters of evil deceit.
Confusion.
And if you don't understand that, you get caught up in their stuff, man.
Yes, sir.
You get caught up in their stuff.
Yes, sir.
But I appreciate the opportunity, and that's all you ask other human beings, to have the opportunity. If you have the opportunity, then humanities and human beings can rise to the level. See, when I played professional football, if you even go back to that time, there were, when I played, very few defensive cornerbacks. Because when I went to the Browns, Paul Brown said black athletes weren't smart enough to play the corner. I wasn't smart enough to play the corner.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard
now,
that.
How absurd is that?
Yeah, usually they talking about the quarterback. I never heard that.
It used to be no. Not only was it when I played, the message was not only cornerbacks, middle linebackers, and centers. So if you go look at history, and one of the things I want to constantly say about all you have to do, man, you don't have to argue or have no intellectual discussion. Just look at history. You look at history of the planet. You look at history of America. Country was conceived in racism and genocide. So you don't have to have a argument or try to prove to somebody that they didn't kill some Indians or Native Americans. You don't have to have no intellectual discussion about that. That's why I'm saying I don't rely on their stuff, man. And that's the only thing that's going to lead. You need, and I'm going to say this, and a lot of people may be objection to it, but one of the pure analysis and all of that is Dr. Umar Johnson. He tell you, man, freedom is different than liberation. Freedom is different than segregation. You know, so a lot of this stuff, man, is just backing away from what you learn in them academies by following the paradigms or the intellectual pronouncements that they deal with. It's a masterful system. It's so masterful, man, that it teach black people to hate other black people. Teach you to hate yourself. That's what brainwashing, programming, and conditioning can do.
Yeah.
The woman who loved me the most was my mother, man. And I love my mother. And my mother, until the day she died, drank coffee. And I used to ask my mama as a little boy, I said, Mama, can I have some coffee? She said, no, June, you don't want no coffee. I said, why? Coffee makes you black. You dig it?
Wow.
Coffee makes you black. Here's a black woman telling me you don't want to be black. And that's what's happening in this country. So once they take you out of the pale of humanity and make you something other than a human being, then they can justify whatever they do to you because they took your humanity. And a lot of us are surrendering and letting them take our humanity. I'm not a nigger. I've never been a nigger. And you can't convince me that there is even such thing as a nigger. They created that word. They constructed that word, and we can't deconstruct it.
Mr. Beach, I have about 5 minutes, but to your point, I just want to touch on the point that you just made about dehumanizing black folks. And I mean, from my study of history, the primary way that they have done that is through media, whether it was the newspapers, newsletters they had, you know, back in the day, where they would show depictions of Africans as beast and other than human. And even till today, when we're talking about this so-called trap music, my generation called it gangster rap music, where that's what it does. It dehumanizes black folks. And so that's why I think it's very important that the National Black Leadership Alliance has launched this initiative, and I've long been aware of and working with Clear the Airways project with Brother Kwabena, because that's the primary weapon right there. Malcolm X identified media as the most powerful entity on the face of the planet because it controls the minds of the masses. And so to me, that is how they have always and still are dehumanizing us. It's through this
of course,
media. All right, so
take you out. You know, to kill a Japanese, to kill a Japanese, you turn him into a Jap.
Mm-hmm.
To kill a Korean, you call him a Gook. To kill a German, even now, you call him a Kraut. See, once you take the humanity away from them, then you can do what you want to do. So you can say, they say that Indians are savage. So therefore, you treat them what? Savagely. Because they savages, and ain't nobody going to get upset. So who's going to get upset if a policeman shoot a young black kid he's an animal. When black people go in and do what they call looting, they call them animals. But when white people loot, they don't call them animals. But the behavior is the same.
Yeah, they call it scavenging.
So if you got to submit to their stuff, you're going to always come out in that manner.
Mm. And sir, as we get ready to wrap it up, I would again, sorry that we weren't able to connect with you earlier, and some things going on that's causing me to cut this broadcast short. But I would love if you would come back so that we can talk about this more in depth and not rush it.
Well, sure. If you invite me back, I will, and I appreciate it. But the National Black Leadership Alliance, this is what we're struggling with, and the biggest problem we have, man, is addressing the needs of our people.
Yes,
the needs of our people.
Let me take this one call. This one call just came in. This person might have a question for you, and then we're going to wrap it up. Area code 720. Thank you for calling in to BTR News. Did you have a question or comment for our guests?
Yes, I just briefly logged in, and I wanted to know who you were talking to. Who was talking? Scotty, thank you.
Yeah, we're speaking with former NFL player, black activist, Mr. Walter Beach, who is speaking to us today about the Culture as a Weapon initiative launched by the National Black Leadership Alliance and Clear the Airways project. We were kind of late getting connected with him, but we will have him back. Did you have a question?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I actually just wanted to know who it was, and I enjoyed everything he said about this last 5 minutes he's been talking. It's very, very informative information. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Otis, did you have a question or comment for our guest?
Yes, I'll let him know. I'm 64 years old. I was a fan. I actually know who he is, but I would like to know if he's willing to give us any contact information so we can build some bridges.
Oh, of course. I can give you my, I don't have any problems. I give you all my information. First of all, my email is walterbeach3, the number 3, at AOL.com.
Walter Beach.
And I have and then I have a book. It's it just go to Walter Beach. Oh wow! And I had a moment of
brain freeze. It happens to us all. It happens to us all, Mr. Beach. You say you have a book out?
Yeah. The book is called Consider This.
Consider This. Okay.
Yeah, Consider This by Walter Beach, and you can pick that book up. Let me get back to you, Mr. Reed, and give you all that information. Okay.
Yes, I have it already, and we will post it in the podcast description once we get it posted. But I don't want to keep you, Mr. Beach. Thank you for joining us today, and I definitely look forward to having you back on, sir.
Okay, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. You have a great day, sir.
Yeah. All right. Peace and love.
Peace and love. All right, that was Mr. Beach, again, former NFL player, played for the Cleveland Browns, was a teammate of Jim Brown. After he got cut from the Boston Patriots because he and other black players protested against the living conditions that they were forced to endure while out on the road. And so he was cut. He was labeled a troublemaker because of that. And so, again, this is why it is important. It's important that people with platforms such as professional athletes use it to address racism, white supremacy, and of course, as I've always stated, that racism and white supremacy is a tentacle of slavery, because these people ain't never, I mean it, ain't never stopped practicing slavery. All right, so I'm going to bring an end to the broadcast later on today. Make sure you check out Tando Radio Show. Will be on at 6:00 p.m. Eastern time. I will be back on air tomorrow at 12, and we will do the full 2 hours, as I hope to have these issues rectified today that is taking me off the air early today. With that said, peace and blessings to all. Be safe out there. Recognize the fact that you do live behind the enemy lines of USA Inc. Peace and blessings.
Hey, no, no, no. Hey, no, no, no.